Welcome back to Night Talk. We've replaced the dummy with quite the opposite. Dr. Audrey Gusky is an associate professor of marketing at the A.J. Palumbo School of Business Administration, and you'll meet her in just a second. But first, let's get some background on the subject of mail order porn and how it has been impacting Pittsburgh from Channel 11's Carol Chandler.
It sure surprised television producer Brandon Faulkner.
I opened up the mailbox and it fell out, actually, right onto the floor, so I picked it up and I looked at it. I thought it was a joke.
But it was no joke. Brandon received this notice from marketing company M&J Direct. It read that Brandon was to receive a complimentary one-year subscription to Penthouse magazine at no cost to him. It added, if for any reason you do not wish to receive this subscription to Penthouse magazine, or you are under 18 years of age, please detach the reply card and drop it in the mail today. And there was a due date. If the reply card wasn't sent back without subscribing, Penthouse would start showing up at his door.
They're doing this more and more because it's really a competitive situation out there.
Marketing expert Audrey Gusky says ploys like free subscriptions are becoming more common.
If they can get these magazines in our hands and we get them for a year, then maybe after a year's time we'll actually subscribe to them.
And even if you don't, Gusky says more magazine subscriptions, free or not, allows publishers to raise advertising rates, meaning more money for the company.
So it's a win situation for them. They can say their subscription rates are maybe $100,000 more than they actually are.
Gusky says it is legal to market out these free magazines because they aren't charging you, but it is up to you to be aware of what's coming into your mailbox, and if you don't like it, to call the company and get your name off their mailing list. Incidentally, after several calls to the marketing company and Penthouse, no one was available for comment. Reporting from the newsroom, I'm Carol Chandler, Channel 11 News.
Carol, thank you very much. Now let's meet live and in the flesh and in person and in the studio and in the pink and in the money, we hope, Dr. Audrey Gusky of the A.J. Palumbo School of Business Administration at Duquesne University. Welcome to Night Talk.
Thanks, John. Great to be here.
Good to have you. So, what is this evil marketing ploy that Penthouse is perpetrating upon unsuspecting Pittsburghers?
Well, you can almost call it guerrilla marketing because it's a very proactive and aggressive type of marketing stance. Yeah. It's getting products in the hands of consumers when they don't even request or, ask for these different types of products.
And you're saying they can therefore claim that their marketing numbers are much higher, that their circulation is actually much higher than it is, even though they're giving it away to perhaps hundreds, if not thousands of people for free.
That's absolutely right. And, numbers are the whole name of the game, and it increases their advertising rates, and it makes them look good. And when it really comes down to the bottom dollar of profits for magazines, it's not necessarily the subscriptions, that's raising the money, but it's the advertising.
Well, in terms of, and we're using the term pornography, one's man's pornography is another man's art or whatever, but we'll go out on a limb and say that some people consider Penthouse pornography. Anybody else doing the same thing? Any other skin magazines or any other type of mail order porn thing that you know about happening?
As far as I know, they are not, but I think once they're all aware of what Penthouse is doing, we're probably going to be seeing more and more of this.
Okay, and the deal is they give you the magazine shows up in the mail. And what is the substance of the letter that accompanies it?
It's a small postcard, and it pretty much says if you do not want to receive this subscription free to your home, then send this postcard in. Otherwise, it will soon be delivered to your home.
Which is, I vaguely remember in my days as a consumer reporter that, people used to send you things and imply that if you didn't take certain action that you would be on the hook and you have to pay for it. But as I understand it, you never do have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And that if you never send them anything, I'm not trying to tell people how to get free Penthouse magazines, but correct me if I'm wrong, if you never send them anything and then they keep sending it, you're not on the hook for anything as long as you've signed nothing or had no correspondence.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. If you haven't really requested it or signed any contract, then you're not legally bound by any of that at all.
All right, but if you don't want it, you better sign the card and put it in the mail.
Yes, exactly.
And you're teaching the students here, what lessons about marketing you're trying to teach them with this?
Well, it's really an ethical dilemma for the students. As marketers, we attempt to provide quality products, better variety, better service, lower prices, and we believe that marketing tends to improve the quality of life. But you have some marketing techniques and situations such as marketing cigarettes to kids through Joe Cool, Camel, or we've got Spuds MacKenzie, who used to advertise beer. which was somewhat catering toward the younger population. So we've got a lot of ethical dilemmas that are happening in marketing, and this seems to be one of them, where they're taking a good trick and a good technique of gearing it specifically to a niche market. They realize who the young 18 to 34-year-old males are. That's who their target audience is, and they're going after them.
We'll talk more about mail order porn and other things that are being marketed and perpetrated upon the populace when we come back on Night Talk in a moment. Stay with us. There's a live shot of Three Rivers Stadium. The Pirates are playing the Reds tonight. We don't have a score yet for you, and but the Penguins are losing, I'm told. Back here in Night Talk, it's talk show host Zero and marketing expert Zero. We're talking about mail order porn and other ethical marketing dilemmas, or maybe unethical marketing dilemmas, with Dr. Audrey Gusky of Duquesne University. Well, let's talk. What do you think of the ploy that Penthouse is using, trying to sign people up? Is it unethical? Is there anything wrong with it?
Well, there's nothing legally wrong with it, because unless they're requiring people to pay for it, they can submit, send pretty much anything to consumers through the mail. The concern is that if other companies started, even if it was more, non-controversial magazines, such as Consumer Report or Sports Illustrated, it's still an infringement on consumers' privacy, because you're giving consumers items and products that they haven't requested and they don't necessarily want. And so when do we reach a point and say enough's enough, and we as consumers are going to be bombarded? I mean, can you imagine if hundreds of magazines started appearing in all of our mailboxes? It could be quite a dilemma.
Just another form of junk mail with a little more content.
That's exactly right. That's one way to look at it. But when you're looking at things like Penthouse or Playboy coming into the home, then that's a whole other issue of, if young people are exposed to it, or people that really don't want it or are offended by it.
Now, some of your students have actually been put on this mailing list, coincidentally, by Penthouse, right?
Yes, they have, yeah. We had a poll this morning, and there were several of my male students who had received postcards. I did not ask them if they had returned the postcard to cancel the subscription, because remember, Duquesne University is a Catholic university.
But we know that Catholic people don't like to look at naked women. But but are they sending? Well, you don't know. You said you didn't take a poll, but they didn't. We're not exactly shocked and outraged necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Just curious. Yeah.
Keep in mind the target audience for this particular group is 18 to 34-year-old men,
Yeah.
and the real purpose, what Penthouse wants to do, is get into the hands of these young men, because these advertisers who are advertising sporting goods, household foods, convenience goods, any type of item that a young man that age would be purchasing and looking to buy, cars, vacation, different types of items. They really want to get the magazine in their hands, and so Penthouse is really trying to up their subscription to get more and more people exposed and visible to that market.
Oh, they're getting a lot of people exposed, aren't they?
Invisible, yes.
Yeah. Do you think those letters are real, or never mind? Well, it's become quite controversial, the issue of marketing things to young people in general. You mentioned during the break, and I was unaware of this, maybe some of our viewers already knew it, that the very popular Budweiser frog ad, where they went Budweiser, had to be pulled because it was controversial, because it was so popular with kids?
Yeah, the problem was kids really liked it. And when you ever have these cartoon characters or these cute little figures that, are really appealing to young people, and it gets to be an issue. And so Budweiser decided to pull it rather than to get into any other controversies. Look at Calvin Klein and the controversies involved with that.
So what was that? Remind me. Oh, that's right. All nude young people, or semi-nude young people, or scantily clad, provocatively posed young people.
Yes, and very, very thin young people.
Right.
And the notion was that it was very provocative. And Calvin Klein reluctantly pulled off the ads, but they knew very well that they were going to have a lot of problems. And they got the publicity that they wanted, and they increased their sales, so it did what they wanted it to do.
What about the notion that this is the United States of America, and it's a free enterprise system, and you got to do what you got to do in order to sell things? Nobody puts a gun to your head, forces you to buy them. Parents have the opportunity to shield their kids from some of this stuff if they are responsible parents.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But when you look at the inner city, and you've got kids killing other kids for the leather jackets, the sports jackets, the athletic
tennis
shoes,
I guess, yeah,
which was a big deal. Another interesting issue is the Beanie Babies in McDonald's. We've got.
We just happen to have the front page story, front page of the lifestyle section, at any rate, of the Beanie Babies today. Now, once again, as usual, I'm way behind the curve. It was only in the last couple of days that I've actually heard of the Beanie Babies, but they're already huge. Tell us what they are for people who don't know.
Absolutely. They're these little stuffed animal types of things, beanie bag types of things, and they have all different names, different characters, and young girls, probably age about 8 to 12, are very interested in it and are starting collections with it. And they had the larger models of them, and now McDonald's is marketing with a kids meal a much smaller version, which is just a couple of inches big, but they're the miniatures of these Beanie Babies. And from what I've heard in the Pittsburgh area, there have been lines 10, 12 cars long almost every day attempting to get this collection of Beanie Babies for their daughters.
So is the controversy that if McDonald's slips them in their Happy Meals or something, that then the kids will want to buy it because they'll be hooked because they're
Oh,
such
absolutely. Kids are hooked on it. I mean, it was a trend before McDonald's picked it up, and it's a good tie-in between McDonald's and these.
Oh, all right. So there's nothing wrong with this in your point of view.
Well, you know, when you think about it, you've got young people requesting to go to McDonald's. You look about the ethical issues of how healthy is fast food for them, how ethical is it to have all these young people wanting these products and pressuring their parents and the peer pressure, taking all these things to school in order to have these major collections of these products.
But how could you, I think you raise a good point, but you couldn't sell anything to kids. I mean, I was certainly influenced when I can even remember watching old Pepsi generation commercials. And, you know, people were dancing in the street and they had water hoses and somebody was opening up the fire hydrant and much hilarity. And then I would get a little jazzed up and think, wow, and I would ride around my neighborhood and there wasn't anybody there. But I mean, I remember being influenced by these commercials when I was a kid. And while I certainly think it's arguably unfair to influence the minds of poor little children who know what they're doing and then browbeat their parents into buying them things, how are you going to market stuff for kids?
Well, kids are very savvy consumers. They're much smarter than we were at their age.
Oh, really?
They've been exposed to MTV. They've been exposed to cable TV. They've been exposed to everything for years. So they know products. They know information. They really know what they want. They've got their own money. They're spending billions of dollars of their own money. And so they know what they want, and they're very informed consumers. But they're still very vulnerable. There's a lot of peer pressure, and these trends tend to hit. And, you know, we went through the Power Rangers trend a couple of years ago, where the kids are really insistent upon getting these products, and parents go out of their mind trying to find these things. Tickle Me Elmo is a good example at Christmas time, how it was so difficult to find it.
I found that completely absurd that people were paying hundreds of dollars to get Tickle Me Elmo instead of trying to teach their kids some values, and that they didn't have to have this toy. Although it's easy for me to say. I don't have a small child who's looking up at me with big puppy dog eyes and the kid across the street.
Well, a lot of times it's not just the kids, but it's the parents, because there's a status involved. And your kid has more Beanie Babies than the kid next door. So I know that's an issue.
Well, if the president actually created a new cabinet post all of a sudden, it was Director of Marketing Supervision, and you were appointed, and he said, come up with some guidelines. I'd like to know what you'd like to eliminate in the world of business and marketing. And, you know, he wasn't hitting on you after that, and he was just a legitimate thing. What would you do? I mean,
Well,
if
first
you
of
were
all, I'm
appointed to the world?
Republican, so that might be a problem. But
No, but he's got one Republican in his cabinet, doesn't he? It's somebody.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But anyway, go ahead. Let's say he wanted another token Republican in his cabinet.
well, the thing you really need to think about is consumers and consumer issues, and you need to protect the consumer. And we're getting into high technology now, where you've got things going across the web. You've got information. You've got consumers being bombarded by advertisements everywhere. We've got ethical issues, as we've talked about with children. So, you know, I guess the main point would be simply to protect consumers. Give them what they want, the information, the variety, the good quality of products, but in turn, you know, also protect them from information that they don't want and things they don't want, and harmful marketing activities.
And how can you do that?
Well, I guess certain legislation should be passed. There have been a lot of laws and regulations, but, you know, in a sense, it's really up to the marketers themselves and society. If everyone sent that postcard back and said, hey, I don't want that penthouse, then that would be no issue.
So you're a Republican and you want to get governments off our backs, but you put more regulations and restrictions on businesses to, you know, stop marketing to our kids.
That's right.
Life's a contradiction, isn't it? Listen, thank you so much, Dr. Audrey Gusky, for coming on the program.
My pleasure. Thanks
Appreciate
a lot,
it.
John.
You come back and see us when we have another hot marketing issue
But
to
absolutely love to
babble
do
about?
that. Thanks.
Wonderful. You will meet Vinnie Belfiore of Rock and Roll Reporter magazine. When we come back, stay with us.